Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today is Thursday, January 22nd. We are recording this at 6 a.m. Pacific time. As my guest JVT likes to always say, he likes to go with the Pacific time. JVT is co-host of Money Moves and also the Pods of the Futures podcast. JVT, how you doing this morning?
Well, you should also. I mean, you need to get rid of this weird mentality. You're no longer an East Coaster. You are from here. You are one of us.
I'm a mountain man, though.
Yeah, well, technically, yes, that is true. But either way, it is much closer than the terrible Eastern time zone. And the West Coast is the best coast for watching sports, as I think you have eventually learned. Mountain time is probably a unique spot to watch them because what are we talking here? So 4 o'clock tips are 5. 7 or 8 or 9. That's not too bad, actually. I might prefer that if we're talking about true tips. At 5 o'clock, it's like a perfect time for things to tip off. You get rid of your family, feed them, kick them out, and then let's go.
I like 4. I like the sooner the better, but
sure.
I'll get a little bit of that because I'll be on your time zone soon. So it's not all year round. You guys you'll join us, but
is it just the summer essentially? Like spring to winter is when we're on the same time zone?
Yeah, I mean, I should know the answer to this, but I don't. I just know that we're not going to change our clocks when you guys do, and we're never going to change our clocks. So maybe
that
could
spring
be
ahead.
Yeah, that could be I believe a countrywide policy soon, right?
I guess. I mean, I learned about. So I read this. I'm kind of a nerd. I do like writing, or I like reading, decent writing and like journalistic pieces and stuff. And I read a great piece like 2 or 3 months ago. It was like an ode to the penny because the penny is they stopped production on the penny, and it was going to be implemented soon that we just don't deal with pennies anymore. And I had my first experience the other day. I bought something with cash, and the guy goes, "Just to let you know, we're going to round this up from $5.99 to $6 because we don't do pennies anymore." And I was like, "Oh man, that's kind of sad. I got to hold on to all the ones that I have." It works out in the wash because they round up at times as well, so you'll get an extra like 2 or 3 cents back sometimes. But still, it's very sad.
Yeah, that's inflation.
Oh, by the way, I brought that up. Sorry, I brought that up because Nationwide Institute. So I know that was a weird thing that I just brought up out of nowhere, but that was the trampoline I used to catapult into that thought. I apologize.
We do kind of do things at the network talking about Eastern time. That's why I do it. But I agree with you. West Coast is the best coast.
Oh, Tim Murray's the worst. Tim does it all the time, and I'm like, Tim, you don't live there anymore. He's like, well, do you know how many people? I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, but you live out here. You could say Pacific and then Eastern in my promos for Money Moves. That's what I do. It's 11-1 Pacific, 2-4 Eastern. Screw the Eastern Coast.
Yeah, I should just do both. That's probably the best way to do it. But we should get into last night's game. Enough time, spent on time. Let's talk about some basketball. What did you have last night, and did you have any big takeaways?
Just a shout out to Kelly Bidlin and a takeaway. But screw you for trying to do what you did to me yesterday as my backdrop drops out. Last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers get off to a red-hot start against the Charlotte Hornets. I think hit their first 6 or 7 shots. At one point in the game, they lead 28-8 in the first quarter. And I get a text from Kelly Bidlin that says, because we were texting about this game earlier as you were part of the group chat, and he asked, hey, did anybody bet the Hornets here? And I had the Cavs. And then he goes, you should have bet the Hornets, or some sort of joke as to, hey, the Cavs seem to be the right side. To which I responded, with my luck, I'm going to get screwed here. And sure enough, they come all the way back. They cut it down to a 5-point lead at the end of the game. I'm laying 2.5. And then the Cavs, they turn the ball over. They split a pair of free throws. And all of a sudden, Brandon Miller gets a wide open 3 in a 5-point game with no time left. That would have probably put this thing on 2, but luckily he misses. Wade rebounds. They foul for no reason, and it ends up being 94-87. But holy smokes, I think the takeaway here is the Hornets are for real. I was texting with Stormy Buonantony's husband. His name's Chris. He's a big Charlotte guy. He's from the area. And we texted a lot about Con Knippel and the Hornets and whatnot. And I said this to Stormy yesterday, and I will say it to you. I feel fairly confident that we're going to get over this win total, even despite this loss yesterday. I think the real question becomes how big they're going to be. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is I know that you got it too, but the market kind of falling asleep, or at least one spot, and getting a 4-1 on them to make the play-in, I think it's going to be very viable. And then you tie it in with the Bucks, which I know you're thinking about as well, falling. This Hornets team, I think, is going to be a danger to get into the postseason. I bet them a 12-1 to do it and 4-1 to make the play-in.
Yeah, I think depending on where you got the win total, I do feel really good about it. Like, I think I got 25.5. I know there's 27.5 within the network, and Stormy's whole family seems to have Charlotte.
Yes, I have 25. We have 25.5 as well.
Yeah, I think Kelly's got the worst of the number, like 29.5, right?
They're adjusted to his credit. Their adjusted win total right now is 32.5. So they're on pace according to the market to get there.
I think he'll get there too. I don't really. I think they're closer to winning like 35 games. I'm with you. I think that there's a chance that they end up, in this postseason hunt. I think that the Hawks are, at risk of falling out too. I think the Bulls are at risk of falling out. So it's not just the Bucks to me. I just think that Charlotte is going to be one of the best of these worst, play-in teams for the rest of the season. And there's kind of a lot of season left. So plus 400. That was a great find by you. I said it to you and Kelly, like the fact that there's like a plus 160 at the rival, website, it's pretty shocking that there's a plus 400 out there.
Yeah, I'm going to double check to see if it's still available for anybody who's listening to this right now, because again, like that's kind of what you want to do too. I mean, you want to hunt around for these, and dude, it's plus 550 now after last night.
Oh gosh,
that might be worth adding a little bit more on. One result is not going to decrease your odds that much, especially against a team that's not in competition with you for a play-in spot.
I guess like it doesn't help that they have a game tonight that they probably, I think they're going to lose. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's another loss. I kind of did think about this last night. I'm like, I probably should have waited 2 games like Kelly did smartly with the Blazers. Like I just didn't really think about it. I just jumped on it because I was so excited, but plus 550, that's a great number.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is a philosophical question then. I mean, look, there's lots of ebbs and flows to a basketball season. Couldn't you just kind of psych yourself out at almost every single turn looking at a schedule and going like, I don't know if I want to invest now because this could happen or this could happen. And then all of a sudden you're watching the team that you expected to lose, blow out the Oklahoma City Thunder on their home floor or something like that, like we just watched with the Hornets the other day. So I don't mind getting in now and then seeing this go out, but I might add a little bit more plus 550 because that's, for the odds to balloon out that much, considering what's going on in the rest of the conference, there's still plenty of runway for them. And the pace that they're playing at, look, they're playing at a pace of about a 39-win team or so they should be able to make it there, I think.
Yeah, plus 550. That's a good find. The only takeaways that I really had from last night, like I had a pretty bad night myself with the betting, but I did, have the under in that Knicks-Nets game, so that was one of my few wins, and I think that Knicks performance is kind of one of the ones that you want to talk about if you're looking at last night's results. I believe it was a franchise record victory, winning by 54 after, their player-only meeting, I believe, on Tuesday. So, they responded well to kind of calling each other out, but definitely not a team that I'm feeling really confident in moving forward. And then the other result I think that's worth mentioning is the Bucks getting absolutely blown out by the Thunder. Not really a crazy result when Miles Turner and Kevin Porter Jr. were both out. Like that's not a team that can afford to be missing any rotation pieces, but it was the stuff after that is really worth mentioning because it was another kind of tirade from Giannis, who it's time to kind of put up or shut up. Like if you're going to be calling your teammates out, calling them selfish after every game, just ask out, man. Like it's time.
You're the selfish one, not you, Zach. Like, Giannis is this. Yeah, Giannis is the selfish one here. What drives me nuts is he is. I keep using this cliche, but I think it is true. He is trying to have his cake and eat it too. He is trying to be the cantankerous, hey, get me out of here, trying to make enough noise so they can get him out, while also trying to be the I'm loyal to Milwaukee guy. Mm-hmm. You can't have it both ways. You can't. A day ago, when asked, hey, do you see yourself playing on this team? Was it post-trade deadline or whatever the question was? He goes, I don't know. I take it day by day. In that moment, you can say as a star, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to fix it. But you don't. Yeah. You don't. And then now you get this nonsense. And he's done it multiple times. He did it to Doc Rivers like a week ago. Doc Rivers, when they got blown out by the Timberwolves, I was a bad scheduling spot. We had bad legs. Immediately afterwards, no, dead legs is a stupid excuse. Again here today. Like this guy is getting it. I'm sorry, but I'll invoke Bill Belichick for a second because I'm fascinated by Bill Belichick cutting his character, not even his character, excuse me, how he is viewed in terms of his legacy, cutting it down for this chick and how he's handling things at North Carolina. It's the same thing here. Giannis is cutting his legacy down at his knees with the way he's handling this. If you have half a brain and you're following it, he looks like a jackass. And so if we move forward, I'm with you. Like, Esther, get off the pot, bro. Demand a trade. Stop acting like you're trying to do this. Oh, I'm just this humble Giannis guy. Remember when I liked Slurpees and stuff? It was cool. Like, no, dude, you kind of suck right now. Just say you want out and get out. Like, it's not that hard. And I don't know why he's trying to cling to this nonsense.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I think that all of it just has to end at this point. Like there was the stuff, like 2-3 weeks ago when he was injured, where he like gave the team a pep talk and was like, I'm here. We need to start trying harder. Like there's only one distraction right now in Milwaukee, and it's him. So I don't know why he's acting like they're
the
all
stupid dunk at the end of the Bulls game. He's like, I'm just trying to inspire folks. Like, no, you're not. You're acting like an a-hole, dude.
Yeah, and I think like league-wide too, it's like it would be nice to just get that shake-up already. I think that like we can use that story, like a better, more positive story about Giannis just going somewhere else and giving, another team some life.
Yep. And by the way, for our audience, we should state what he said. There was he only had 11 shot attempts last night. That's what it was? And he was asked why, or essentially how can we get the ball more? And he's like, it's unacceptable. And they're like, you're Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's like when James Harden, when he was playing for Doc Rivers, and he said, well, the ball just didn't find me. You're James Harden. Ask for the fucking ask for the ball, dude. It's so stupid.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else from last night for you before we dive into tonight's games?
No, I think we hit it all. I mean, I'll just say the Hawks Grizzlies game was a fun one, but it was generally a pretty quiet day for the most part. I'll just point out. Let me pull this up, see what the standings are right quick. 1.5 games back. The Toronto Raptors. You don't believe, and yet they're just 1.5 games back in the division. Just saying.
Yeah, they are playing a little bit better, and Quickly's been playing a little bit better, which I know is kind of like a talking point over there where they've been not happy with that contract, but he's been pretty great over the last couple of games. And I know that he was kind of mentioned in some John Moran and Trae Young rumors. So definitely nice to see him performing a little bit better because I thought that signing would work for them. I know that it seemed like a lot on the surface. What was it, like $33 million? I thought that was a good number in terms of kind of projecting like the future cap, but it has been a bit up and down since he signed there.
Yeah, they might be a trade candidate, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And the buy at the deadline's not going to be huge, but maybe it's enough to win a bad division because right now the Atlantic looks like it stinks.
Yeah, they're kind of the team that I've been keep thinking about with Jaren Jackson Jr. when he's mentioned as a Memphis trade candidate. That's a team that really needs the help at the center spot, and you definitely can use a floor spacing center.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, it would be really good. And I do they have kind of the assets to pull it off. They still have some first round picks. They can move, some of the failed first round picks of the last few years. Well, I guess that's a little bit harsh, but they can move some of the guys, the young guys, and make that work. So I'd be really interested in seeing if they can find a way to get that trade done.
Yep.
All right, well, let's talk about tonight's games now. I have a ton of plays, so we're probably going to be going for a little bit here. We start with the Hornets at the Magic. I kind of tipped my hand with this game, but the Magic are 6.5-point favorites. Totals 228.5, and I don't have anything traditional here, but I do have the Magic in a money line parlay with the Timberwolves against the Bulls. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. But with Orlando, it's just kind of like, I was impressed with the way that Memphis played after the trip back from London last night. I thought that they had a little bit more, fresh legs than I thought they would have. And the Magic have had an extra day. So I think that they're going to be completely fine tonight. And I actually just look at it as an advantageous rest spot as opposed to, the troubling international back to America spot. And this is a second leg of a back-to-back for the Hornets. Jalen Suggs is questionable. I think Orlando's the better team to begin with. So I just kind of think this is a pretty good spot to back Orlando on the money line. Yeah,
this reminds me of a couple of weeks ago when you and I were talking and the Hornets were playing the Pacers. I think it was on the second leg of back-to-back. It was third and four nights, and the situation was very poor for them. And it's not a great spot for them either, playing not only on the back-to-back, but like a pretty gritty, tough game. I mean, that was like a 94-87 game last night. They tried to get themselves back into it, so you're playing to the final whistle. Part of me looks at this number and says the Hornets deserve a little bit more respect. But given the situation, I like your angle here to maybe use Orlando as a money line play, kind of negating of course, the need to win by margin, and also maybe negating some of the worry you might have when you're talking about traveling back the way that Orlando did. And like you said, too, the extra day, unlike Memphis, who did end up losing, but did look very competitive in the game against Atlanta last night, we just mentioned. So I actually, number-wise, I did lean toward Charlotte, but the scheduling spot has me off here. I do think that they're deserving of a little bit more. I think truly this should be like 5.5, or actually, I'm looking at 5.5 or 5. So if it gets a little bit higher, maybe the market likes to bake in these back-to-backs. It might get up to 7, but I think at the end of the day, we'll see what the injury report deems as well to see if anybody's resting. But lean Charlotte, situation got me off.
Yeah, I was kind of with you at the spread. Like I was closer to thinking the Hornets at 7.5 as a play than anything on the Magic side. But I do think the Magic will win on the money line. And I should also mention if Suggs ends up not playing because he is questionable, it is like a knee injury that they're trying to manage his right knee. if he does not play, I will be going to Anthony Black over on points. That's just kind of been a blind auto bet for me this season. He's averaging 19.8 points per game when he plays without Suggs. And, more often than not lately, that's been like 20 plus points and, 25, ish points. He's just been so good when given the opportunity to kind of run with that point guard spot. And I do think that even with, Franz back, Banchero healthy, I still think he would get his numbers if Suggs ends up missing this game.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Rockets 76ers now. This game tips at 4 p.m. Pacific time is what it is.
Yes.
The Rockets are laying 1.5 in this game. Total's 221.5. Do you have anything here?
I'm leaning toward. I'm leaning toward. I don't know why I'm stumbling here. I'm leaning toward the Rockets. I know that they have not been good on the road, and that's kind of what gives me a little bit of trepidation. Seems like a short number, and that maybe the road struggles are kind of baked into this to an extent against Philadelphia. So that's going to be something to monitor. Injury report, as we know, is always going to be a little bit of a journey, but Paul George is questionable. Joel Embiid's probable, so I would expect that maybe we're going to get Joel Embiid, and Paul George is not going to play here. But I do think that the Rockets are equipped to go into this game, even without Steven Adams, and get this done. They still have the depth at center. They still have some bodies they'd be willing to go out there. And I think guys like Şengün would be a little bit of a problem for Joel Embiid to handle defensively. And they don't really have, nobody's a KD stopper, but they don't have anybody that I think can match up with them in those half-court sets. I think it's going to be pretty ugly. Their half-court offense has been abysmal. But I'm not asking them to win by margin here. I'm asking them essentially to go in and win the game as a 1.5-point favorite. And I think I feel comfortable in doing that with Houston tonight.
Yeah, I actually have a pretty big play on the Rockets minus 125 on the money line. Well, not huge, but like to win 1.5 units as opposed to like my normal one.
Baby.
Houston did not play last night. This is a third game in 4 nights for Philly. I think this is a decent spot for the Rockets, even on the road. This is still the number 2 team in the NBA when looking at adjusted net rating. Philly's all the way down at 14th in the league at plus 0.7. There's like 5 points that separates the 2 points, per 100 possessions. And even with no Adams, I think that, the Rockets have a pretty good size advantage overall. Maybe not with Embiid at the center spot, but I think everywhere else, they're going to feel much bigger than the Sixers are. And this team is still number 4 in the league in adjusted defensive rating, number 3 in transition points allowed per 100 possessions, which I think is big against a team with Maxey and Edgecombe, those 2 explosive guards. And this is also a Houston team that's 24-6 straight up as road favorites of 6 or fewer under Ime Udoka. So they do tend to win as, smaller road favorites. So I think this is a game they are going to win. I never really talked about the Adams injury for this team. It is really big because, like you said, like the half-court offense has been abysmal, and Adams, like just dominating the offensive glass, is their half-court offense.
Zach, they're a hockey team. They're a hockey team. So they're like, I called the Lakers when they were in the bubble, like the hockey, like the NBA version of a hockey squad. It's dump and chase. It's throw shots up at the backboard and have Steven Adams and others just get offensive rebounds and putbacks. The Lakers did that with like Marc Gasol, and I can't remember the other big they had on that roster, but it's the same thing. Like, that's how they supplement their half-court offense. They just get a crap ton of second chance opportunities.
Yeah, was it not Dwight Howard? I feel like
I thought it was too. Okay, yeah, I thought it was Dwight Howard. Yeah,
but yeah, it is like he is such a big part of their offense, which is crazy because Steven Adams is not an offensive-minded player, but his offensive rebounding is huge to this team. So it will be interesting to see if they're kind of able to keep that same identity with like Clint Capella playing his minutes. I think Capella is pretty washed at this point in his career, and he does have hair, I think, so it's not just a bald thing. But I do think that this is going to be a team that needs to find kind of a new identity over the next couple of weeks. I'm hoping they lead more into like Shepherd ball because I think that Reed just needs to be playing like 30 plus minutes from here on out. I think that he's shown that he's like their best perimeter shot maker and just needs to play through some mistakes, but I guess we'll see.
Have you let your audience know about your bald theory that has not gone well so far?
It's kind of something that like they would have had to have been listening to the episodes with you, but you can go ahead and let them know. Yeah, I was like I was down on Rudy Gobert early in the season because I
called him washed because he was bald.
He looked older. I did call him washed, and he's been great. So
and then you called Wemby a fraud when he went bald as well. You said this kid's career's done.
I did not say that. I did not say that. But I did think that I did say about Wemby, I thought he was starting to look like he had, some aura for the first time in his career with his like little, he had some hair, like a nice hair, like before he shaved it off. And I know everyone was like, oh, it's them losing to OKC and he's going through a personality crisis after like one night. But I don't know what it was. It could also be that didn't he train with Raja Ghul or something?
Yeah, that's a good reference for those who don't get it. And really quickly, I just want to add for the Rockets. Rockets as well, because I mentioned the road struggles are 11 and 12 away from home. Their underlying metrics actually suggest they've been a little unlucky on the road so far. They're actually outscoring opponents by 5.1 points per 100 possessions in non-garbage time on the road. Their win differential right now is a minus 3.9. So in other words, they have about 4 wins fewer than they should given their net rating away from home. So they are getting a little unlucky here. They still have the 5th best offensive rating away, 11th best defensive rating. They should snap back out of this in a game that I think works well for them. And by the way, Tyrese Maxey's not going to get negated, but at the very least, if you're Houston, you've got some pieces that you feel confident in one-on-one scenarios that you're going to throw on him, Edgecombe as well. So yeah, let's go Rockets.
Yeah, I was going to write that up because I haven't written up my sides and totals yet at VSiN.com. Maybe they'll be up by the time this podcast comes out. But Ahmed Thompson is going to take one of those two out of the game, or not out of the game, but he's going to make life very difficult on one of them, whoever he ends up guarding. So yeah, I'm kind of with you with that as well. All right, let's move on now to Nuggets at Wizards. The Nuggets are 5.5-point road favorites. Totals 229.5. This game tips at 7 p.m. Eastern. Anything for this one?
No, I mean, a little bit of a lean toward Denver. Some sort of illness or whatever's going through the Wizards locker room. You look at their injury report: Marvin Bagley, questionable ill. AJ Johnson, questionable ill. Chris Middleton, questionable ill. So there seems to be some sort of thing. I don't know if you know this, but Trae Young is not playing tonight either. So there seems to be something kind of going on with the locker room. And look, the injury report for the Nuggets isn't great still. Still no Jokic, still no Johnson. But looks like Jonas Valanciunas might come back here today. That might be something for him. He is questionable to play. So if I get Jonas Valanciunas back out there, and we're still going to get Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray, Tim Hardaway Jr. It looks like he's going to play. So it seems like a spot for the Nuggets to bounce back after a tough loss against the Lakers that I thought they were going to be pretty live. Got off to a good start and then kind of let go of the rope at the end.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a lean on Washington, but I backed off because of the illness thing. I had that written down in my notes. Bagley, Middleton, AJ Johnson, all listed as out with an illness. And I always assume that if those guys are, not feeling well, there's probably a few others that are going to play through an illness. And it's just not a situation where I'm looking to back Washington, even though, 2 days off for them and not the best rest situation for the Nuggets. But man, I just, it's hard to get there with this Wizards team right now. I did take Peyton Watson over 18.5 points at minus 117.
Yeah.
He's averaging 22.1 points per game, in games without Joker this year. I think that his shot profile is kind of perfect for this Washington team because the Wizards just can't defend inside 10 feet. And that's where he scores 60% of his points, and also a pretty bad spot up, shooting defense in Washington. And Watson's gotten much better knocking down threes. So I think that this, matchup kind of benefits like an active off ball, athlete like him.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that I think is worth noting for everybody watching too is or listening, look, it's the Wizards. I'm sure that if these guys really are feeling sick, they're going to be more than likely sitting there, just take the night off. Like, it's fine. Yeah. And if that's the case, you could lay 5.5 and this number balloons out to like 7.5 if a bunch of these questionables turn into outs by the time we get closer to game time. So we'll see what happens. But this is a difficult game to jump into because you could also lay 5.5 and all these guys end up playing. And then you're sitting at something that's a little bit more inflated. So ultimately setback, but I will state for the record, like the Nuggets here.
Yeah. All right. Warriors Mavericks is another one that I'm really interested in tonight. This game tips at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. The Warriors are 5.5-point favorites. The total is 234.5. Do you have anything in this one?
I kind of do. And I feel like I'm falling into a trap here a little bit. I think this team's done. I think this team might stink. I think that you look at this right now, we're seeing some 5.5 start to appear, but I would kind of disagree. And I think I want to play against this group because I think there's also, so outside of just the value of Jimmy Butler, because outside of him and Steph Curry, who are your main shot creators at this point right now? I mean, it's Curry and that's about it. Yeah. So those non-Curry minutes are going to be an absolute nightmare. I would also say that there is a mental aspect to this. Jimmy Butler is gone, and now you're looking around and going, we're not really getting anything back. Kuminga and this whole nonsense, which I wish would just end, is not. And I think that you're in a position where now you get this big-bodied Mavericks team coming in. It's going to just gluck everything up. I don't know, man. I feel like this is a team that's worth playing against in the early going until the market really starts to turn on them. They're still getting priced, not like the Warriors of old, obviously, but a respected top seed. And I don't think that is the case with this group.
Yeah, I wish you did a Kendrick Perkins voice when you said big body Mavericks, but I do think
Moody.
But yeah, I'm completely with you. Like, I think that there's more than just, losing Jimmy Butler and being tired third game in 4 nights.
Yep.
You're emotionally drained too, like you just said. I think that losing Butler is essentially the end of your season. Also, like the type of thing where I mentioned it the other day, like this is a team that was going to try to buy at the deadline and put together another run, in the playoffs again, like they tried to last year. And I don't know if they would have been able to do it, but I would have been interested in seeing what like a Porter Jr. or somebody like that could have done for them. Now you're in a situation where you just lost your second best player and there's really no way of replacing him. And going out and acquiring somebody doesn't make a lot of sense because you're just kind of throwing good assets at bad. It's not what you want to do at this point. So I do think this is a really bad team moving forward. Kind of really sad for Stephen Curry that like they did try to put, a contender around him towards the end of his career, but this is going to be ugly, not just this season, but probably next season too. And the Mavericks are, looking pretty competitive lately. I mean, they're 8-3 against the spread at home this season when playing teams with winning records, 8-0 against the spread as underdogs of 3.5 to 9.5 at home. I just think that this team can be trusted to kind of show up in these types of games. And yeah, I'm not sure that the talent disparity is that big now that, Butler's out.
Yep. And we should know too, I mean, injury report's relatively solid for them as well. We'll see if Daniel Gafford plays. So he's questionable, but the names that you want are going to be out there for Dallas. And the other part, just to put some numbers behind this. So just Jimmy Butler off the floor, they get outscored by 2.8 points every 100 possessions. Their offensive ratings in the 36th percentile, their defensive ratings in the 43rd percentile. And then when I mentioned those non-Curry minutes, without Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry on the floor this year, they're averaging 108.3 points per 100 possessions. It's bad. I mean, their most used lineup, these are some really bad looking lineups. I just don't know where this offense is coming from, especially when Curry gets off the floor. So maybe it's an in-game angle too. I'm going to take Mavs pre-flop, but maybe an in-game angle for anybody watching. When Curry checks out, maybe start looking at some of these in-game unders or betting against the Warriors because I just don't know where their offense is coming from.
Yeah, and like I feel like as you look at like potential paths to retooling this team, like one of the only options I can really think of is moving Draymond. And I know that they're not really interested in doing that. I've heard that like Curry and Draymond all want to end their careers together. And I don't know. That seems like the only thing that could, like, if you actually gauge the market on him, I wouldn't be surprised if you found a contender that was interested. So that would be where I'd be looking, but I don't think they're going to be willing to do it.
I mean, he stinks, dude. I mean, he's not anywhere near the player that he once was either, and he's a pain in the ass. I don't know, but he has been coddled by Steve Kerr and enabled this entire time in his career, so I guess that makes sense.
He's still great defensively. The offense is so much worse than what it used to be, and like the 3-point shooting used to be not a strength, but like they used to be able to play 5 out with him, and they can't anymore.
I mean, he is still good defensively, and there's a lot of noise in like on-court, off-court numbers, but their defensive rating only improves by a point when he's out there on the floor so far this year. That is by far the lowest we have seen from him since the 2020-2021 season. So he can have his little moments, but I don't know, man. I think that he is definitely on the wrong side of whatever arc that we're talking about here for his game. And yeah, just remember this again in February and March when all these fools try to say that he should win Defensive Player of the Year and start betting him at like 80-1.
Yeah, Rudy just needs to grow his hair out and he'll win that award. That's going to happen.
Oh, he's going to win it, dude. We're going to get Keontae George and we're going to get Rudy Gobert. It's going to be great.
I know. I hope so. We're getting ready for Big Game 60 with a big deal to match. Save $60 off a VSiN Pro annual subscription when you sign up using promo code HARDWOOD, all one word. Become a VSiN Pro annual subscriber. Bet smarter all year long with full access to our daily best bets from VSiN hosts and guests, real-time DraftKings and Circa betting splits, AI-powered prop tools and matchup analysis, 24/7 video and full show replays on the VSiN Watch app, plus all of our betting guides and expert picks for the Super Bowl and upcoming March Madness. Don't miss out on this big game deal. Visit vsin.com/subscribe and use promo code HARDWOOD to save $60 off of a VSiN Pro annual subscription today. That's vsin.com/subscribe. And Hardwood, HARDWOOD. And when we said the big game, we were not talking about Bulls Timberwolves at 8 p.m. Eastern. We were talking about the Super Bowl, but let's get into the Chicago-Minnesota game. I've said before, I have Minnesota in some parlays. I do not like them on the spread. I just don't trust this team whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I do think that coming off 3 road losses and a loss to a Lauri Markkanen-less Utah team, I would expect them to bounce back. This has been a team that generally does bounce back from these bad losses under Chris Finch. And for as good of a ATS coach is Billy Donovan is, the Bulls are just 59-99 straight up as road underdogs under him.
I would agree pretty much with everything. I actually thought, and it looked like for a while, that Minnesota, luckily I got priced out very quickly after some of the news with the injury because I thought, 10 seems fair against the Jazz, and then all that stuff happens. They close about 13-14 and then blow that game. I'm with you. I think they have the capabilities of covering this number, but as we have discussed with this team and actually invoking our boy Rudy Gobert one more time, those defensive possessions without him on the floor are just an absolute nightmare. And I think that's part of the reason why they would have some trouble covering some of these really big numbers. And that's going to be, I think, a problem as you move forward, unless they try to change something here. So I'm with you. I think including them on a moneyline parlay makes a ton of sense right now. But I wouldn't trust laying that, or maybe look in game to see if this number can get a little bit cheaper. But I'm also like, I don't really trust this Chicago team. There's still like some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, residuals from the hot start of the year baked into their power rating a little bit, and I think that's worth playing against. But these defensive numbers without Gobert for your audience too, 123.2 defensive rating when he's not on the floor. That's in the 8th percentile. It's an absolute nightmare. So our boy's going to win Depoy, and he is also the reason why we can't bet this team because they have nothing without him.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to see more of Johan Berenger because I do think that he's done some good stuff off the bench and kind of looks like, the future Rudy Gobert there. So I'd like to see him play a little bit more. I think that he could probably help with their defense a little bit. Positionally, though, I think that he's got kind of a long way to go.
Sorry, I'm just confused because I thought Naz Reid was better than Rudy Gobert. And since he's still on the roster, I figured that they would be fine. But
I did like, by the way, I was listening to Lowe and Kirk Goldsberry the other day. I like that he announced that Minnesota has won the cat trade a few years later, because I always did like that trade. I've always been high on this Minnesota team, and I do think that, it is pretty clear now that the duo of Randall and DiVincenzo is better than Cat.
Yes, well, I mean, and not to, because we did talk about the Knicks very briefly, but given the slide that they're on, I mean, man, and I think Lowe mentioned this in that podcast you're talking about too. Bro, they traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. They shipped off with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo for Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, you talk about a misuse of assets, bro. I mean, you might win the East by default because it stinks, but they are not beating anybody coming out of the West. I feel very confident in that.
Yeah, and like as a Suns fan, I love Mikal Bridges, and it kind of hurts seeing him being like one of the guys that they're blaming in New York. But at the same time, like you said, the trade was awful. It was like they were so patient about not making that superstar deal with those picks, and then for them to do it just because of the Villanova ties, like it was a little dumb.
That to me is the bigger thing that we don't talk about enough. I know everybody likes to talk about like, oh, cool, they all went to Villanova together. It's like, that's the stupidest way you can build a team because they all went to school together. So you're just rebuilding a really good college basketball squad in the NBA. That's clown behavior for a front office. And sure enough, it's looking like that.
Yeah. And like, they didn't even really have that whole Villanova team for that long because they did move DiVincenzo out the door. So.
Yes, you're right. But I will say it gave us one of the better commercials. Was it the phone commercial?
That was a great commercial with the Paul Walker song in the background too. Yeah. Oh, man, it's so good.
I like how it's considered the Paul Walker song because I thought that too, even though he did not sing it. It's just the one that they played at the end of Fast and Furious after he passed.
Yeah, he should have sang it. But yeah, it's
he's a little busy, Zach.
Yeah, great song, great movie, great guy. R.I.P. Paul Walker. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
There's some arguments against the great guy thing, but we'll save that for.
I don't know anything about him. I shouldn't have said that. Should not have done that. Great actor.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Spurs Jazz now. This game tips at 9 p.m. Eastern. The Spurs are big favorites in this game, 12.5 points. Totals 237.5. Don't want to write Utah off because the last time I did this, they won outright against Minnesota in a Keontae George game that definitely helped us in most improved player. Anything for you in this game?
Sorry, I'm thinking about your love for the Impractical Jokers as well. It's not going well when you endorse a celebrity. No, I'm going to go with. I think it's a pretty decent spot. I was kind of disappointed. The number's pretty large. Maybe the market's going to play him down here a little bit. I mean, I'm so conflicted because I feel like matchup wise, this is going to be a tough one for Keontae George. We saw it was a pretty good game against the Thunder in which they were pretty competitive and went to overtime a couple of weeks ago. But in that game, and I remember watching it closely, George got really frustrated with some of the defense that was getting played. And so he ended up kind of going into like FU mode and started chucking shots and trying to get his team back into it with like one possession. And that didn't really work out. And given what we know about San Antonio and the defense they can play in the backcourt, just the bodies that they have in the backcourt, all the guards that they have, and George, as good as he has been on offense and as much as he has improved on offense, going again back to that Thunder game, he got bullied physically a lot of the times. I mean, Shea was going after him, and there was a lot of times where he would just get a shoulder put into him and he'd go back like 2 or 3 feet. I think this is going to be a tough matchup for him on both ends of the floor. And I think San Antonio is good enough, and I think they're conscious enough of what Utah can be, especially coming off of that game, right? I mean, if you're San Antonio, if you're anybody in that locker room with a clipboard, you're showing that Minnesota game and going, guys, like, you cannot not take this team seriously. So I think that that's going to be a matchup that really works in their favor. It seems like a big number, but it would be Spurs or nothing for me for the most part. And our boy's questionable at the beginning anyway. So if him and Sensabaugh can't go, I mean, who in the world is scoring for this team, for Utah?
Well, it's funny you say that because the one play that I do have tonight is Isaiah Collier over 18.5 points and assists at plus 100. The reason I have that is when Markkanen does not play, they do tend to start him, and he averages 19.5 points and assists. And if you do not get George out there, it's only going to mean a bigger role. In the one game that he played without both of them, he had 16 points and 10 assists. So I feel really good about him hitting the number if he gets a runway to play without both those guys. But I also feel like he can pretty easily go 20 plus points and assists if just, George plays with no Lowry. Sure. But it is funny. You kind of let the people in on like a secret where, like, when we have these awards talks and we all have these tickets, like, we will kind of leave out the bad. And I always talk about how Keontae George is up from like 0 offensive EPM to plus 2.8. What was that, 69th percentile last year to 93rd percentile this year. He's exactly the same defensively. He's minus 2.7 last year, minus 2.4 this year, first percentile, however you say that, both years. So definitely a bad defender still.
Yeah, for sure. And that's probably not going to, he tries, like, when you watch him, he at least tries to put his body there. I think a lot of it has to do with just a physical disadvantage in a lot of these spots. He's still a pretty small guy. So we'll see if that changes throughout the course of his career. But luckily, most improved is essentially, did you score more points than you did last year? So we're getting into the territory where, and again, he has been called the favorite by multiple media members. I will reiterate once again, he should be the favorite. And I like to play with Collier too, because again, if Sensabaugh and George are out and Larry Markkanen's out today, I mean, it's just going to be one of those things where it's just going to be like, bro, you got the ball in every possession. You go do what you want to do here tonight, and we'll see if we can get out of this. And also, kudos to the Jazz. Your boy scores a career high in points, and you're like, brother, calm down. You got a forearm strain. You're not playing today. Okay?
I also love, I literally wrote this down because it's just absurd. Markkanen is listed as return to competition reconditioning on the injury report. It's insane. I'm excited, though, about the Jazz future because I do think that George now very clearly looks like a future all-star if he's not one this year. And just having that duo to build around, and I think Ace Bailey's had some moments. I don't think that they're that far away from putting together something nice there.
Would agree.
All right, let's move on to your Clippers hosting the Lakers in a building that's not very far from the Lakers. Game tips at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time, I'll say for that one, because that is the most West Coast showdown you could possibly have. The Clippers are 1.5 point favorites in this game. Total's 223.5. Anything for you here?
Man, I don't know. I think that the end of the road trip, I think, was a classic bad spot for them. You know what I mean? So I don't want to take too much away from what we saw for this team the last time. For those who don't know, they had a little bit of a 3-game East Coast swing. They had a good game against the Wizards, and then I believe the Bulls game was on the second leg of back-to-back, if I remember correctly. And they went out there, got off to a hot start. And, I always hear you in my head when you get in these situations because it's a little bit of an older team. You get off to a good start against Chicago, and then just kind of like, we're good, and then lose. Coming in off of some rest back at home against this Lakers team that, if you zoom out farther, they have played well against under Ty Lue. I think that this is a spot where they are deserving of being a small favorite. I would expect that the market flips and makes the Lakers a favorite here at some point. So sit back and wait. 1-1's not the biggest deal in the world, but this all to say that I lean toward the Clippers. It's funny. There's a couple of NBA or like Lakers podcasters that I'll follow. I think Jason Timpf is one of them if you follow him as well. And a week ago, it was talking about how bad Luka Doncic is and this thing needs to get fixed. And then you look at the Lakers, they've won 2 straight, and it's like, Luka's playing some of the best basketball. It's like, dude, let's chill out. You played the Nuggets, a team that is living by a thread here, considering their injury report. And by the way, you were down throughout most of that game as well. Yeah. I still think this defense stinks. I think anytime the the market gets a whiff of a fart of positive from the Lakers, it's going to move in their direction. I think the Clippers deserve more here, and I think they can get it tonight. So give me LA.
And Kawhi's actually questionable too, which is kind of shocking to me because I really did expect the worst when they said knee swelling. Once I see that with Kawhi, once I see that with Kawhi, I'm like, all right, we're not going to see him until next season. But you never know. Now he's questionable. Maybe he'll be out there.
I will say, and to that point, look, a lot of people like to dunk on Kawhi and whatever, this team and all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, these guys are still athletes. You don't think that Kawhi, he doesn't show anything. You don't think that he can kind of hear all this and understands the magnitude of, oh, great, here we go again, knee, sending back home, all those sort of things. I think that there's probably some sort of stubbornness appearing when it comes to, I'm going to play. I'm going to try to play this thing, and I've been playing some of the best offensive basketball of my career lately, and I'm going to come back and get this thing, especially against the in-town team like the Lakers. I'm sure Ballmer and everybody wants this. For a regular season game, I don't think people understand either. The Lakers can pretend like they're a big brother, and the Clippers, maybe that is true, but they care. They give a rip about these games, and I think it's going to be a pretty good game for them.
Yeah, and like you said, Kawhi's playing, some of the best basketball of his career. You also have to think about, he's not that far away from needing an extension. And if he were to continue playing like this, there would definitely be another team that would be willing to kind of throw a huge, huge contract his way. So I think he wants to get back on the floor. I think the Clippers are the right side as well. I just think that defensively, I trust them a little more. And then offensively, I think they're going to be able to kind of rip through one of the worst defensive teams in the league. Also have a lean to Ivica Zubac over 24.5 points and rebounds, just because this feels like kind of a dream matchup for him, getting to work against Ayton, who, does not have the strongest motor in the league, to say the least. And the Lakers are pretty decent when it comes to rebound rate, but I just don't really see them keeping Zoo off the glass. And I also think this team is pretty weak defending around the rim. They're a bottom 10 team in the league defending at the basket. So I think Zoo's going to have some, putbacks, some easy pick and roll finishes. I just think it's a good matchup for him.
Yep, we completely agree.
All right, and then the final game of the night is the Heat at the Trailblazers. This game tips at 10 p.m. Eastern. The total is 237.5. The Blazers are laying 1.5. Anything for you here?
No, this one I scratched off. I haven't watched a lot of Portland in recent weeks, so I want to see a little bit more of them here. And tonight, up against this Lakers-Clippers game, might be a fun time to do it. But I think with Miami, they're a team I can't really get a good read on, man. They've kind of been, I don't want to say all over the place, but there have been some instances where I expect that they're going to be able to come out and show me something pretty strong, and then they'll do something like blow a game against the Boston Celtics. And it kind of speaks to the way they've been playing. They've been alternating wins and losses for the last week now or so. I just don't know what I'm getting from this team on a night-to-night basis, so I scratch this one off pretty easily.
Yeah, there's a win in OKC against OKC that comes out of nowhere. So yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I don't know what to make of this Heat team. I am high on the Blazers. Kelly's kind of got me on them. I think that they have been really good lately, and I've watched a few of their games over the last couple of weeks and have been really impressed with the way that they're playing, especially now that Drew Holiday's kind of back in the mix. They're going to get Scoop back soon. I think that I would take the Blazers here if I had to take anything in terms of the sides or totals. The rest spot's also really good for them. They have not played in 3 days. It's a third game in 4 nights for Miami. I think that benefits Portland a lot. The one play I do have here, though, is Donovan Clingan over 11.5 points at -115. There's going to be no Robert Williams III this evening. Clingan has scored 18 plus in the last 3 games he's played without the Time Lord, and he's played 34 plus minutes in all 3 of those games. So I just kind of think that he's earning the trust of Splitter a little bit more. I think he's healthier at this point in the year than he was to start the season. And this is a good matchup for him as well, because Miami is small inside, especially when Ware doesn't play and Ware is questionable. They are prone to putbacks. So Clingan is a massive body. He'll have a few of those, but also this Heat team struggles against rollers and pick and rolls. And they also struggle against above the break threes, and Clingan is a stretch 5 now. I mean, he's shooting 33.3% at home. Not great, but he will take them if he's open. I think he will be open to fit in this game.
Yep. That sounds, I think that all makes sense. And I would lean a little bit toward Portland as well, given the situation. And I might just add it just because, why not? We got something to do tonight.
Yep. Any future talk you want to get into? Or we did a lot today, so we don't have to. But
I'll just say this really quickly. So I've tried to be a little bit more creative because I'm tired of hearing about all these cool things that people are cashing and I'm not in on it. So what I did was, because I've recently invested in the Denver Nuggets and I've got a lot. I've got over their win total. I've got them to win the West just straight up. But what I did was I parlayed Dodgers to win the World Series with Nuggets to win the Western Conference. So I've been doing some of those fun things where I think there's actually some value given how good the Dodgers are. I know this is a basketball podcast. So kind of tying them to like little futures here and there, I think would be a ton of fun. I have a ridiculous Dodgers to win the World Series, Jackson Smith and Jigba to win Super Bowl MVP. So yeah, I'm trying to tie the Dodgers into stuff, and one of them was Nuggets to win the Western Conference.
I think you just want to be featured on the tip jar for Mitch and Paul.
Yeah, the pizzeria. I just want somebody to tweet out like, a better has this,
Yeah.
Can you imagine going into, because I think it paid out like 18-1, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, if the Nuggets can win the West. I mean, to sit on Dodgers at 16-1 to win.
Yeah, that's a crazy payout.
Yeah.
I might want to get on that too.
The Jackson Smith the jig was pretty good too. Telling you this. Well, because the reason why is I was sitting there and I actually put Indiana money line in the national championship game, and I parlayed that with Jackson Smith and Jigba to win Super Bowl MVP, and that paid out about like 21-1 or something like that, and he's now like 15-1 or somewhere in that range. But it just got me thinking, like, these people do this all the time where you're kind of getting a little bit more bang for your buck, and let's just see what happens. I don't think it's a plus EV play or anything, but I thought it was fun.
Completely unrelated, but did you see that there's a bettor that put a bonus bet of like 100,000 on the Patriots at 10-1 at DraftKings, and like the story that's kind of like hidden there is that to get that type of bonus bet,
yes,
it means you've probably lost like $1 million in their sports book.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yes, absolutely. One time when we were doing the shows out in Ocean City, there was like this area, because I would do the shows with Michael Lombardi in New Jersey, and there was this like area that they would give to essentially like all these people that were out there, but it was very much known that, you got to spend and lose a lot of money to get in this area. And this dude comes up to me because I'm sitting there and he goes, I'm sitting in the seat. Do you know who I am? And I'm like, no, I don't know who you are. And he's like, well, they do. And I turn at him, I go, I know, because they have all your money. He's like, shut the fuck. Oh, yeah, dude. I got to do a scrap. It was fine.
Yeah, I feel like my family used to go to the Bahamas like for spring break and stuff, and I feel like it's because my dad used to lose a lot in craps.
Hell yeah.
He's going to be listening to this at some point. So
doesn't have a timeshare?
We did not have a timeshare, but they almost got suckered into the timeshare. My in-laws got suckered into something like a timeshare in Mexico like a few years ago. So later on in the game, they were still suckered.
Dude, I know we have to go. I'll just say this really quickly. At the South Point, because I don't think you've been out there when we were there, they used to do, at the South Point studio, there would be people that would do timeshare tours all the time. Like they would walk them through, they would be touring. And one of the best stories was, they see our studio and they're always making stuff up. I've seen Mike Tyson in here. I've seen Floyd Mayweather in here. And at one point we're leaving the studio and Humans and I are walking, and the timeshare guy just goes, he points at Matt, because they're just riffing, right? He points at Matt, he goes, and this guy's in there all the time. And it's just it's like, why would that be a selling point to these people? They have no idea who he is.
Oh God! If you could go into those things and avoid getting the timeshare, you usually get something good out of it. But it's tough. They're hard with their sales.
Yo, see, that's why you like. I have this conversation with Stormy all the time. I'm a very good guy at saying no. 100%.
I'm terrible. If you get me at a car dealership, I'm screwed.
No, I'll say no. 100%.
All right, well, let's wrap things up. Before we do that, attention to any listeners who are new to VSiN. Signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. All right, let's recap our best bets for tonight. I feel like we both had a lot. I'll just run through mine quickly. I have parlay with the Magic money line versus the Hornets and Timberwolves money line versus the Bulls at -130. Played that to win 1.5 units. I have the Rockets money line at -125. Played that to win 1.5 units versus the 76ers. Peyton Watson over 18.5 points, -117 versus the Wizards. Mavericks +5.5, -110 versus the Warriors. Isaiah Collier over 18.5 points and assists at +100 versus the Spurs, and Donovan Clingan over 11.5 points at -115 versus the Heat.
Like it. All right, for me, and I've actually just sparked with an idea, so I'm going to try something stupid after this. But Houston -1.5 against the 76ers, Mavericks catching 5.5 at home against the Golden State Warriors, and the Clippers today -110 on the money line. I would also say this. What would you say to so you had a money line parlay in there. I was going to go with Orlando, Minnesota, and San Antonio as a money line parlay as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one that I think they're going to win too, so I would not hate that at all. What would the odds be for that? Probably a little bit better than probably a little closer to like +140.
-103 is what I'm looking at right now, so I'll shop around.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, I still like it. I don't see any of those teams losing. So, I think that's definitely worth a look.
Love it.
All right. Well, we're going to get you guys out of here now. It is late. We've done a lot today. So good luck with your bets tonight. Hopefully we get back in the win column after a weeknight for me last night. We look forward to this slate. We look forward to having JVT on again next Thursday. Best of luck tonight and join us for a Friday edition of Hardwood Handicappers.